Well, just under 1 month ago, a dear friend and former sofa sister, Rhonda Glenn, was unexpectedly diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. And on Wednesday of this week, Rhonda passed from this life into eternity. And we have all been in deep prayer for her dear, sweet family, Ray David, her husband, their son Matthew, who's only 7.5. And really, it's taken us all by surprise. When something like this happens, it, like you said, Moira, it really does shake you down to your foundation of what you believe. And it causes you to pause and think and find, who do you put your trust in? And we know that Rhonda's life was modeled beautifully. I was speaking with her mother-in-law, Rhonda Glenn, just a couple of nights ago. And she said from the moment Rhonda got the diagnosis until the end, her faith was unshakable in Jesus. She just glowed with trust, no matter what the outcome, that she was safe in the hands of God.
And that's what Job, that's that famous line that Job says, you know, to God, though you slay me, yet I will trust you. You know, so many people around the world have the opportunity to live out that kind of faith, and ours is so rarely challenged with that kind of depth, you know. And I think you always wonder how you would handle it, if you would be able to be the example that you hope that you would. And Rhonda knows the answer to that question, and so do all of her friends and family. Like, what an inspiration she has left.
You know, it's the place where you grieve and you have sorrow, and then on the other side, you want to celebrate a life well lived, a legacy left, not only at 100 Huntley Street, and to not only, like our beautiful makeup artist Julie said, Mel, please say on air that, you know, Rhonda wasn't just loved by the viewers and the you know, like the girls on the couch and being a host, but by the production team, by the makeup artist, by the people behind the scenes who she interacted here at Crossroads every day. And, you know, I remember, and I was just gonna share this memory, Rhonda was hosting Full Circle a few years ago, and we had a great time. You know, I loved being with Rhonda. We always laughed, and we would debrief after the show and share
used to
stories.
Give each other sly little looks.
We'd give little looks and knowing, and then after the show. And
there's Rhonda.
oh, there it is.
There it is.
Oh, look at us there.
This was our very first Full Circle program. This is
What's
way
this?
back.
Oh my goodness.
This is the
There
first
was.
one. There's Rhonda there.
She was in my spot.
Yeah, this is January of 2006, and then of course
The barbecue.
Oh,
the barbecue with Randy Mitchell.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Randy had a good time with her.
Yeah.
Well, and Rhonda, that's the other thing too. She was a fun person. You know, she liked to laugh, and she had a very dry sense of humor, which I appreciated.
Really did.
And a bit of a mischievous side. So
Absolutely.
Oh, you didn't always see that on air, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh, she was so much fun.
Oh, and then we did with Anne Graham Lotz.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There she is. Well, I remember the last time when she hosted, and I think you might have been away. So she writes me on Facebook right after, within hours. She writes me on Facebook, and she writes this to me. She says, Melinda, it was fabulous being back on the couch. It's awesome working with you. And by the way, I got a lot of positive feedback on the show, the guests and the topic. You go, girl, Rhonda. And I think one of the greatest memories that she leaves with me is she was always one of my greatest cheerleaders and champions. I was new on the couch. I was a newbie. I had no idea what to expect coming on the couch and being at Crossroads. And I remember Rhonda would take me aside after every show and go, you go, girl. You be who you are. Be true to yourself. Let God speak through you. Be courageous. And people might not always understand you. People might not always get you. People might even not like what you say and send you emails about it. But you stay true to yourself and you stay close to Christ. And I'll never forget that. I think I'll always take that with me. And I think I have to say to Rhonda now, you go, girl.
Yeah.
You go, girl. And thank you for what you brought to my own life, to my life.
I think that was probably one of her biggest gifts, was being an encourager. And I know like she encouraged me a lot too. And even in singleness, that was one thing I take away, especially from the time that when she was working here. So many times we talk about that because she went through a period of singleness and just how she got through that journey. And she would just always be so encouraging to me, and in my job, but also just in my personal life and my spiritual life. And I always appreciated her wisdom.
She definitely was an encourager. I think back to one of the last times I visited with Rhonda, which was just about 3 weeks ago. And actually Ron and I, my husband and I, went to visit with Rhonda and Ray David and just be with them, encourage them, pray with them, bring them cards and things that we had brought from the building here. And spent a really lovely summer afternoon, spring afternoon with them. And as we were about to leave, I was hugging her and we prayed together. And she looked me in the eye and she said, "Ann, you've done good work here today. You've done good here today." And I thought, Rhonda, I've come to encourage you, and yet you're encouraging me. That's just the way she was. She could not let a moment slip by without encouraging you, telling you what you're doing is worthwhile, has value.
And isn't that true? It's the person that's behind the scenes that matters. You know, people know all of us on air, but it's really who we are in a real life situation, right? In a sense, hopefully we're the same either way. But that's what really counts. And my favorite Rhonda memory is I used to produce Lorna Duick's show, Listen Up, back in the day. And and at the time Rhonda was producing her own show for CTS. This is prior to ever being on Huntley Street. And she did this really unique thing. She used to, and I would never have told this when she was here because she probably would have been embarrassed for me to tell this. But I think it's something that it's been over a decade and I have not forgotten this. She had all of her money, extra money, I don't know if it was her offerings or tithes or how she define that, but money that she wanted to give, she put into an account, and she just let it accrue in that account. And then when she came into a situation where she felt moved by God to give to a cause, she would just write out a check. So we had done this show on Sierra Leone and raising money for limbs, to buy prosthetic limbs for people. It was over Christmas. She was in her office watching the show as it went live to air. And the minute the show was over, she was in the studio with a check for $1,000 that she had been saving up to give to something. And God moved her heart, and she just walked down here and gave the check. And told me about the way that she had been putting money in this account to be able to give when the time was right. And I just, that meant so much to me. Like, what a beautiful, generous woman who was just ready to be obedient to God. Even before the situation came up, she'd been prepared. Isn't that beautiful?
And I wonder if that's how she was in her passing. You know what I mean? That she had been prepared. Or how do you even prepare for something like that? I wonder. I mean, how do you prepare yourself when you hear the doctor say, you have an inoperable brain tumor? How do you prepare your family? How do you prepare those that you love around you? I don't know, but I have a sense that Rhonda was such a pragmatic person that she would have just said, yes, this is where I'm at, and these are the people. And like you said, Anne, she was even encouraging in her time of incredible stress.
And when you